Let me have a conversation with you about how to produce content that people will love to listen to. I'll talk to you about how to structure content, how to actually choose the words, the pace, the tone, and everything. Okay. So here's an overview I really want you to pay attention to. See, the whole thing here is that if you are trying to structure content that people you want people to listen to over time, over and over and over, you got to follow a proper structure. There is a certain logic that you need to follow. Let's say you have a story. Everybody got a story. But right now, you are listening to me. You probably have a business, or you want to communicate around your business with products and services, or you have an audio guide, or let's say you have a webinar, or you have a podcast. You are a podcast producer, and you want to increase the exposure to your content. It's really important to always ask yourself first, who is my target audience? See, when we talk about target audience, we are speaking about the intersection between geography and demographics. Remember that. Geography and demographics. You don't speak to 18 years old on TikTok the same way you speak to 50 years old who are on Facebook. Demographics are really important. You also have to think about geography, right? Depending on the geography of the target audience, you have to tailor your message to that geography. So what I'm trying to say here is that when we talk about structuring content that people love to listen to, I want you to remember this duality. Welcome back to the show, boss. I really appreciate having you here. In today's convo, I want to quickly talk to you about how to structure all kinds of audio content so that people will love listening to you. Okay. And when we talk about content in general, the structure is important based on the reaction you want the audience to take. Do you have a call to action? Or is this is more like an awareness content, or this is a content that you really want people to act upon, right? So everything must be linked. And the cool thing here is that maybe it doesn't have a monetary perspective. In other words, you're not asking people to sign up for something. You just want to raise awareness, or you want to draw attention to a product or service. Depending on what kind of strategy you have in your sales funnel, you are going to craft content to reach that specific goal. So let me talk to you about the actual approach that I want you to follow right now if you want to structure content that people will love listening to. And we're not talking about content that people will just love listening to today and forget about tomorrow. We're talking about something evergreen. You know, like you take content that when you listen to it, let's say, you listen to it today, you listen to it 5 years from now, it's still wonderful. First, let's start with the grading. You want to address your audience member and yourself also, and you want to be a very trying to be informal. Okay, I'm not talking about hello, Mr. Bob, or hello, Mrs. Linda. No, hello, Bob or Linda. Nice to meet you. And thanks for stopping by. I am Mark, Lisa's virtual assistant. We are here to help you achieve your goals. So we made this holistic fitness audio guide for you. See, I'm trying to address the person very informally, trying to create, let's say, a layer of familiarity. This is the kind of strategy you want to choose also, okay? By the way, boss, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. I am speaking to you about how to structure content people will love to listen to. So you have the grading. Besides the grading, you have the introduction. Please do not confuse the grading with the introduction. A lot of folks confuse those two elements, which are distinct. Okay, the grading is just a way to greet the listener. The introduction is actually part of your content. The same way you have the main body and the conclusion of your content. Okay, so in the introduction, you really want to briefly explain what the listener will expect from this audio guide, this podcast, this webinar, whatever piece of audio that you produce. You need to be clear about what the listener will expect, right? It's all about the value you are adding. It's all about the expectations you want. Like, it's all about, if you listen to me for the next 20 minutes, for the next 15 minutes, this is what you will get. Think about it. When you have those courses online and they give you an outline, they give you outcome or benefits, whatever. So you have a clear idea what to expect. Let me give you an example. You can say, I will explain to you why diets and generic fitness plans don't work, and I'll give you tips on how to achieve a balanced and healthy eating plan and fitness routine. Right off the bat, you are telling the listener what to expect. So when we talk about the greeting and the introduction, it's very important to understand that we want to grab the listener's attention within the first 5 to 10 seconds. First 5 to 10 seconds, boss. Those are crucial because in today's world, as you know, people's attention span is kind of limited. But I don't buy the fact that people say, well, this generation is too distracted. I don't buy that. I think what's happening here is that content creators are not able to capture people's attention. See, if you are a great content creator, you will grab people's attention no matter what. Whether you are in the 18th century, the 19th century, or 20th century, or 21st century for that matter, you are able to always capture people's attentions. It requires skills. It requires a combination of luck also, but a combination of skills that are developed over several years. So the goal of the greeting and the introduction is to grab people's attention. And you also want to add a layer of trust and credibility to your services and offering. The big question is, why should the listener, why should the lead listen to you? Why you? Now, if you want to achieve your goal of credibility and like your goal of adding a layer of credibility and trust, you want to address the listener by his or her first name. As I said before, you can try to be formal, but informality pays big time. Instead of saying Mr. Bob or Dr. Bob, just say Bob. Instead of saying Mrs. Linda or ma'am, just say Linda. People love this layer of familiarity. So you want to address the listener by their first name. You want to have something called choice repeater. See, you want to create relevancy by repeating his or her initial choice when they actually were brought to your website asking for guidance. You need to understand there is something that made the listener come to your website, come to your webinars landing page, come to your podcast landing page, come to whatever you want to direct the listener to. There was a pinpoint. I want to lose weight. I want to exercise more. I want to fix problems in my relationship. I want, like, my toddler is misbehaving. I wish I could really know how to talk to, like, I need personal space. There is a lot of things that can bring people to your website. You also have the segment. So depending on their segment, there should be an appropriate addressing. It should be different if it is about groups, families, single people, etc. So besides the name, the choice repeater, and the segment, you have something called a problem, benefit, outcome, the PBO. And we have been actually researching the PBO for the last 25 years. And one thing we have found here is that when you add a layer of credibility, you are basically increasing your chances of linking the PBO to the RTB. I'll speak about the RTB later on. RTB stands for reasons to believe. Let's talk about PBO first. For example, if your potential lead needs help with losing weight, you can add a sentence reinstating that you are an expert in the field. For example, I want to lose weight. I want to build muscles. Well, Dr. Lopez is a specialist in helping people to lose weight, to build muscles. Okay. Boss, once again, I want to remind you of today's topic. I am explaining to you how to structure content people will love to listen to. The reason why I always remind you of this topic is because I want to contextualize the conversation so you are clear about what we are speaking about. So besides the PBO, you have the RTB. So reasons to believe. So if you add 1 to 3 mentions of your credentials, testimonials, or famous collaborations, etc., you are more likely to increase trust and credibility. For example, you can say, Dr. Lopez has helped thousands of people. He was featured on CNN, Fox, BBC, Forbes. He has worked in this area for 20 years or 25 years. The goal here is to establish credibility, but also reinforce authority in the field. See, the whole thing is, even in Google, when you search for, let's say you search a certain topic, Google will rank websites based on authority. And what Google calls authority is the equivalent of what we call in coaching and course creation in thought leadership, your authority on the field. You have gained authority, you have gained credibility in a specific field because you have worked in the field for 20 years. You have collaborated with the biggies in the industry. You have been featured on national media. You have been cited in various publications. That's how you gain credibility. So once you get that credibility, use it. So besides the actual, the introduction, the name, the choice repeater, the segment, the problem, benefit, outcome, the RTB, you also have the main part. See, the whole thing here is that when we speak about the main part, we are speaking about the body of your content. So if you're having an audio guide, if you're having a podcast, if you are having a webinar, if you are having anything that actually calls upon the listener's auditory skills or auditory, I would say, predispositions, you will need to make sure that you are being clear about the geography, as I mentioned before, the geography and the demographics. Okay. And what you want to do here is that you want to keep your message short, dense, and impactful. Short, dense, and impactful. No need to actually confuse the hell out of your listeners by having 1 hour of content. If you can summarize the content in 20 minutes or 10 minutes for that matter, right? It's all about brevity. It's all about making sure that you look for conciseness. It has to be concise. Okay. So the main part should be short, dense, and impactful. By impactful, I'm talking about you're just dropping gems. You are dropping gems of knowledge, gems of sophistication, things that you have accumulated over the years based on your experience. And then you have the outro. So the outro, this is the part of the audio guide where you conclude your content. And it can be your audio guide, it can be your podcast, it can be a webinar, it can be any kind of a audio marketing piece, right? And this part should be short also. Again, you can see that throughout today's conversation, I have insisted on the element of brevity, right? It has to be short and maximum 2 sentences or 3 sentences. Let me give you an example. Bob, Linda, step away from your usual life and immerse yourself into glamorous Bali. We promise you will never want to return. See, very short, straight to the point. You are making the listener dream. It's all about dreaming. I mean, this part is so important to bring your listener to a point where they want to escape the routine of everyday life and actually embrace the expectations of something else. I want to talk to you about call to action. See, call to action is really important because unless you are a charity and you just want to do something good in this world, you probably have a business, you probably have a podcast, you probably have a webinar, you probably have an audio guide, you have a business where you have an audio guide. The goal is to actually draw customers, to use the audio guide as a lead magnet to draw customers, whatever they are in the sales funnel, to the main destination. So you got to have a call to action. If you have a business, whatever you have, it's really important to include a call to action. And a call to action is probably the quintessential part of your audio guide. Here, what you want to do here, be very careful here when we talk about the call to action. Do not sound too salesy. Do not sound too pushy. Okay, you are gently promoting your services to your prospective customers. Remember, not all listeners are at the same stage in your sales funnel. Some are just discovering you. Some have known you for a while, but they're still undecided, and some are just waiting for that little element that will just actually push them to becoming a customer of yours. Okay, so try to keep the messages authentic, short, and prompt. You want to really tell the listener to contact you for a booking, buying, exploring. Okay, and when we talk about CTAs, never talk about money. Do not include money talks here. This might sound tempting to you. You might like, okay, I want to talk about money, whatever. But don't do this because you really want to make sure that you first establish your ability to add value So once you have established your ability to add value, you can charge whatever you want to charge. It's really important. Okay. So it's one of those things where you address the listener by his or her first name, not last name. Don't trying to be too formal here, as I've said before. It's Bob and Linda. Okay, it's not Mr. Bob, Mrs. Linda. No, Bob and Linda, and be always focus on adding value. Like, okay, somebody wants to lose weight, wants to feel good. Somebody who wants to lose weight, basically what they're telling you here is that they want to feel good. They want people to smile at them. They want to smile at their own figure when they look at themselves in the mirror. So this element of feeling good, I want you to really focus on that so that you can actually win the listener over. Before I close today's conversation, let me talk to you about, I want to give you a few pro tips when we talk about how to create content that people will love listening to for many, many years. It's important to go back to the call to action that I just mentioned. A call to action is quite essential in the sense that it is I would say the piece that ties together your audio guide, your piece of audio to the service or product that you are selling. Okay. And you want to mention the listener's name every time you need their attention. But don't overdo it though, because if you start overdoing, like if you start saying Bob and Bob and Bob and Bob and Bob, this will sound unnatural and annoying. I mean, your listener will start thinking that you're not a real person. You're like a robot, whatever. If you notice into this conversation, I've been calling you. If you have been listening to this convo since the beginning, I've called you boss, 2 or 3 times. Only 2 or 3 times. It's because, first of all, I don't know your first name or last name. It would be impossible for me to know all viewers' first names. But number 2, boss it could be boss or friend. Those are gentle reminders that we have trying to establish some kind of familiarity, at least for 20 minutes, right? So you want to use the RTB. So you want to mention the name. You also want to use RTB again. Remember, reasons to believe, right? You want to reinforce credibility and why the listener should trust you. Like, why not trust Mr. Joe, Mr. Doe, Mr. Smith, Mr. Peter? Why not them? Why you? See, this is why you have to, this is how you add value. You have to explain why you add value very briefly. You want to paint a positive picture. So here you can visualize by painting the picture of what the ideal world, solution, benefit, outcome could look like, right? So the whole thing here is to actually close the deal in the listener's mind to say, you know what, this is the person whom I've been waiting for. Here is a person who can really help me solve my problems. Here is a person whom I believe can help me lose weight or reestablish trust in my relationship, reestablish trust in my ability to do a better job at work, all kind of stuff. Okay. And the last sentence should be short and instruct the listener on what to do to access your services. For example, click the button below and find the villa of your dreams now. Okay. So this is really important. Now, overall, and to close to this conversation, structure is not only a thing when constructing world famous monuments, it's also great when it comes to creating content people will love listening to. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. In today's conversation, I was just talking to you about how to structure content people will love listening to. And as I give you an overview, the approach, and the pro tips. Thank you. God bless you. I'll speak to you another time. But until then, remember, stay marvelous.